The greatest gift of revenge I gave my high school. Remember your first day in high school when you feel like nothing could go wrong, and after topping the class in middle school, you are sure you'll do well. Well, this was my initial feeling when I was to resume at Montgomery High School in the fall. Before this, I'd had no experience with high school except for my love for movies and TV shows. I'm the only child of my parents, and my friends are all in the same grade as I am. The anticipation leading up to my first day of sophomore year was palpable. Fresh notebooks, sharpened pencils, and a renewed determination fueled my excitement. My achievements in middle school had set the bar high, creating an image of success that had yet to meet the challenges of high school. As I stepped onto the campus of Montgomery High School, my heart raced with a mix of hope and anxiety. The halls were a maze of unfamiliar faces, each one a potential friend or foe. My small circle of friends from middle school provided a familiar refuge amidst the sea of new experiences. However, little did I know that the tranquility of my past would soon be replaced by a storm of torment that would test the very essence of my being. The first few weeks went by in a blur of introductions, new classes, and adjusting to the rigorous pace of high school. I felt like a small fish in a vast ocean, struggling to find my place. My friends and I stuck together, navigating the hallways like a tight-knit unit. We shared stories of our teachers, compared class schedules, and discussed the exciting events that lay ahead. One day, during lunch, as we sat in our usual spot in the courtyard, I noticed a group of students gathered near the bulletin board. Their animated gestures and excited whispers piqued my curiosity. I excused myself from my friends and made my way over to see what had captured their attention. Pinned to the board was a colorful poster announcing auditions for the school's upcoming theater production. A rush of excitement surged through me as I read the details. Being a fan of movies and TV shows, I had always secretly harbored a desire to perform on stage, to become someone else, if only for a brief moment. That evening, as I shared the news with my friends, their faces lit up with excitement. "You should totally go for it," Sarah, my best friend, exclaimed, her eyes shining with encouragement. The idea of stepping out of my comfort zone both thrilled and terrified me. But with their unwavering support, I decided to take the plunge and audition for the play. The days leading up to the audition were filled with a whirlwind of emotions. I practiced monologues in front of the mirror, rehearsed lines with my friends, and even dreamt about being on stage. As the audition day dawned, my heart raced and my palms grew clammy. But I was determined to conquer my fears and make my mark. The audition room was filled with an air of nervous anticipation as I stood before the casting panel. My voice trembled slightly as I delivered my lines, but I poured my heart and soul into the performance. When I finished, I looked up to see the panel exchanging glances and nodding approvingly. A sense of accomplishment washed over me, regardless of the outcome. Days turned into weeks, and the wait for the casting results felt like an eternity. In the meantime, the challenges of school year continued to mount. The coursework became more demanding, and the pressure to maintain the high standards I had set for myself began to weigh heavily on my shoulders. The once familiar hallways now seemed daunting, and the faces that had held the promise of friendship began to blur together. Then, one afternoon, as I sat in the cafeteria with my friends, I received an unexpected email notification on my phone. My heart raced as I opened the message and my eyes scanned the words before me. "Congratulations! You've been cast in the role of Emily in our upcoming production." Tears of joy welled up in my eyes as I shared the news with my friends. They erupted into cheers and congratulatory hugs, and I felt an overwhelming sense of belonging at that moment. The audition had not only given me a chance to pursue my passion, but had also brought me closer to my friends, strengthening our bond in the face of adversity. As rehearsals began, newfound energy filled my days. I embraced the challenges of balancing schoolwork with rehearsals, and the camaraderie among the cast members made the experience even more rewarding. The storm of torment that had clouded my initial days at Montgomery High School began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of purpose and accomplishment. Then the sophomore year began like any other chapter in my life, filled with anticipation and hope for new experiences. I was a quiet girl who found solace in the pages of books and had a penchant for the unconventional. Little did I know this very uniqueness would become a target for torment. The first few weeks went by smoothly as I navigated my classes and began to find my footing. But then, like an unexpected thunderclap on a clear day, the torment began. Sophia and Emily emerged as the architects of my misery, their cruel intentions evident in every malicious glance and taunting word. It started with whispers, subtle remarks that cut through the air like a knife. I would catch fragments of their conversations, the sharpness of their words punctuating the ordinary hum of the classroom. At first, I brushed off their comments, hoping they would lose interest and move on. But their cruelty only intensified, escalating from words to actions that left me bruised both physically and emotionally. The stairwell, once a quiet sanctuary, became a chamber of torment at the hands of Sophia and Emily. The pins they used as instruments of pain were a manifestation of their malicious intent, piercing my flesh and leaving behind scars that would forever bear witness to their cruelty. Each encounter left me shaken, my self-confidence eroded with every blow. Desperation led me to confide in a teacher, hoping that the adults entrusted with our care would intervene and put an end to the torment. But the response I received was a harsh reality check. My pleas were met with skepticism and denial. The very people meant to protect me turned a blind eye, their indifference compounding the pain that had taken root in my heart. The torment continued, relentless in its pursuit of breaking my spirit. Their taunts echoed in my mind long after the final bell had rung, poisoning even the moments of respite I found within the pages of my beloved books. It was as if they had claimed ownership of my existence, their cruelty defining the narrative of my high school experience. As the days turned into weeks and then months, the weight of their torment began to take its toll. My once bright eyes now carried a shadow of fear, and the confident stride that had marked my entry into Montgomery High School had been replaced by a cautious shuffle. I withdrew from the activities that had once brought me joy, my passion for the theater dampened by the darkness that had enveloped my world. One evening, as I sat alone in my room, my eyes fell upon the poster that had once ignited my dreams of performing on stage. The memory of the auditions, the thrill of being cast, and the camaraderie of the cast members flooded my thoughts. For a brief moment, the weight of my torment seemed to lift, replaced by a spark of determination that had lain dormant within me. With newfound resolve, I reached out to my castmates, sharing my struggles and seeking their support. To my surprise, they embraced me with open arms, their empathy and kindness a stark contrast to the cruelty I had endured. Together, we formed a bond that transcended the confines of the stage, and as we rehearsed and prepared for the upcoming production, I found a renewed sense of purpose. Opening night arrived, and as I stood backstage, my heart raced with a mix of anticipation and nervous energy. The once familiar jitters that had plagued me seemed insignificant compared to the battles I had fought off stage. As the curtain rose and I stepped into the spotlight, a sense of empowerment washed over me. With every line I delivered, I felt the weight of Sophia and Emily's torment lessen, replaced by a newfound confidence that had been born from the depths of my struggles. The applause that echoed through the theater at the end of the performance was more than just validation of my acting skills. It was a testament to my resilience and the triumph of the human spirit over adversity. These torments that had once defined my high school experience had been transformed into a source of strength, a reminder that even in the face of cruelty, one could rise above and reclaim their identity. In the aftermath of the play's success, Sophia and Emily's power over me began to wane, or so I thought. And their taunts and actions lost their sting as I found solace in my passions and the unwavering support of my friends. The scars they had left behind became symbols of my strength rather than reminders of my pain. Days turned into weeks, and the torment continued unabated. Each encounter left me more defeated, my spirit eroded by their relentless cruelty. They reveled in my misery, their taunts echoing in my mind long after the final bell had rung. It was as if my very existence had become a canvas upon which they painted their sadistic desires. I knew I had to do something, but I just couldn't figure out how to go about shaking of my bullies, and it seemed like I had to make Sophia, the head in all this, pay for all the sufferings they had made me go through. Then fate, it seemed, had a plan of its own. A chance encounter led me to a new ice cream shop that promised relief from the heat of summer. As I entered, I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. There, behind the counter, stood Sophia, her eyes widening in recognition before a devious smirk graced her lips. It was as if the universe had conspired to deliver her into my hands. A daring idea blossomed in my mind, fueled by the desperation for retribution. I ordered a dairy and gluten-free ice cream, fully aware of my allergies. Setting up my phone camera to capture every moment, I watched as Sophia prepared my order. The smirk she wore was all the confirmation I needed. She intended to strike once again. My heart raced as I held my breath, the camera recording her every move. And then it happened. A spoonful of milk, deliberately concealed beneath the facade of ice cream, tainted my treat. Gluten-containing wafers crumbled over the top, a final touch to her malevolent creation. With practiced ease, she presented it to me, her voice dripping with false sweetness. The trap was set, and I was ready to spring it. Maintaining my composure, I thanked her and calmly requested to speak with the owner. As the shop owner listened to my account and watched the damning footage, a mixture of shock and anger played across her face. In that moment, justice felt within reach, a lifeline for the torment I had endured. The wheels of consequence were set in motion, and Sophia's web of deceit began to unravel. In the aftermath, Sophia faced the consequences of her actions. Her role as an instigator of suffering was exposed, and her ambitions were dashed against the rocks of justice. The very act that had once broken my spirit had become the catalyst for her downfall. She would forever carry the weight of her choices, a reminder that cruelty reaps its own bitter harvest. The passage of time saw me grow in ways I had never anticipated. Just the quiet girl who had once sought refuge in the pages of books now stood taller, her shoulders squared with newfound confidence. The echoes of Sophia's cruelty had faded, replaced by a resolve to rise above the shadows that had once threatened to engulf me. As news of Sophia's actions spread throughout the school, a shift occurred in the dynamics. The whispers that once followed me down the hallways were now directed at her, a bitter reminder of the consequences she could not escape. It was a small victory, a taste of the vindication I had longed for, and yet the satisfaction I felt was tempered by the knowledge that Sophia's punishment was only the beginning. The incident had ignited a fire within me, a hunger for justice that burned with an intensity I had never known. Inspired by my own experience, I sought ways to raise awareness about the devastating effects of bullying. Grateful with the support of my friends, I organized workshops and seminars, inviting experts to speak about the psychological and emotional toll that bullying inflicts upon its victims. The response was overwhelming. Students who had once suffered in silence now found solace in sharing their stories. Together, we forged a bond that transcended the walls of our school, uniting us in our determination to create change. It was a testament to the power of turning adversity into action, of using our pain to fuel a movement that could reshape the very fabric of our community. The local media caught wind of our efforts, shining a spotlight on the cause we had taken up. Our interviews and articles highlighted the transformation that had taken place within the once quiet girl who had faced her tormentor head-on. I found myself at the center of a whirlwind, a reluctant spokesperson for a cause that had become my life's mission. In the midst of the chaos, one message stood out, an email from a stranger who had stumbled upon our campaign. The subject line simply read, "Your story gave me hope." As I read the heartfelt words of gratitude, tears welled up in my eyes. It was a poignant reminder that our actions, no matter how small, have the power to resonate far beyond our immediate reach. The following year, as I prepared to graduate from Montgomery High School, I reflected on the journey that had brought me to this point. The scars of my past had become a badge of honor, a reminder of the battles I had fought and the victories I had achieved. Sophia's reign of terror had been replaced by a legacy of resilience, one that had ignited a spark of change within our community. As I walked across the stage to receive my diploma, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. The halls that had once echoed with cruelty now reverberated with the promise of a brighter future. And though Sophia's name had faded into obscurity, her impact remained, a reminder that even in the face of darkness, we have the power to shape our own destinies. And so, my high school journey came to an end, not as a victim of bullying, but as a survivor who had turned the tide against her tormentor. The story of Sophia and me had evolved into a narrative of empowerment, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. As I stepped out into the world beyond, I carried with me the lessons I had learned. That strength can be found in vulnerability, that justice can arise from adversity, and that the power to create change resides within us all. As the years went by, the impact of our anti-bullying campaign continued to reverberate. Schools in neighboring towns adopted our workshops, and community organizations rallied behind our cause. I found myself speaking at conferences, sharing my story with audiences far and wide. The girl who had once been silenced by torment had now become a voice for those who had been marginalized and unheard. In college, I pursued a degree in psychology, driven by a desire to understand the complexities of human behavior and to help others heal from the scars of their own past. The lessons of resilience and compassion I had learned during my high school years became the foundation upon which I built my future. As I delved deeper into my studies, I realized that the torment I had faced was not an isolated incident. Bullying was a pervasive issue that transcended age, gender, and socioeconomic status. My research and advocacy work only solidified my commitment to eradicating this epidemic. Years later, as I stood before a podium at a national conference, addressing an audience of educators, parents, and students, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had led me there. The quiet girl who had once felt powerless in the face of cruelty had become a force for change, a living testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The legacy of our campaign had evolved into a movement that spanned generations. Students across the country were empowered to stand up against bullying, armed with the knowledge that their voices could make a difference. The very halls that had once been a breeding ground for torment had transformed into spaces of empathy and understanding. Looking out into the crowd, I saw faces that mirrored the pain I had once felt, and yet their eyes held a glimmer of hope, a spark ignited by the stories of survival and triumph that had been shared. As I concluded my speech, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey I had undertaken, for the scars that had become symbols of strength, and for the opportunity to be a catalyst for change. As the applause filled the room, I knew that the story of my high school years had transcended the confines of a single chapter in my life. It had become a narrative of transformation, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, and a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is a light that can guide us forward. And as I stepped down from the podium, I carried with me the unwavering belief that our collective actions have the power to shape a world where empathy triumphs over cruelty, and where every voice is heard and valued.